Welcome to this Monday edition of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBW Podcast on those platforms as well. Make sure you give us a follow, interact with us on social media. That is the best way for us to know what you want to hear about. This show is for the fans, by the fans, so we want to talk about what you want to hear about. Again, best way to do that, give us some feedback on social media. Also, give us that 5-star review wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcast, all those platforms. If that's where you're listening, just drop us a review and subscribe to the show. We greatly appreciate it. If you are watching us on the BodySlam.net YouTube channel, hit that subscription button, hit the notifications bell. That will help out the channel. That'll help us out, and all will be well and good. And if you're listening to us on Sports Wire Radio, thank you for doing that. This station runs 24/7, so just make sure that you are tuned into all the other great shows that are on this network. Once again, my name is Chris Belcher. Thanks for hanging out with us. Joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, the young buck, Mr. Andy York. Andy, we are finally coming to the end of our WrestleMania coverage. It has been a jam-packed month or so, but man, it's kind of sad that we're coming to the end.
Yeah, it's a bittersweet moment of I'm going to miss the experience of WrestleMania and all the stuff that we've done building up to WrestleMania. It's been a lot of fun, but I'm also glad WrestleMania is only one time a year because this would be crazy doing this multiple times a year. But yeah, it's been a blast, and I enjoyed this WrestleMania experience, and I am definitely for sure that it is not my last WrestleMania experience. Don't know if LA is going to happen, but something's going to happen at some point down the line.
The bug has bit, Mr. Andy York. I knew that it would, and I'm glad that it did. So what we're doing to wrap up WrestleMania week, month, whatever you want to call it, it's a fitting end to WrestleMania season. That's the word, season. Fitting into WrestleMania season that we tell you guys the story of the whole weekend, how it happened, the craziness that was 5 days in Dallas. We teased it on a couple of other shows that, we did some things. We're going to tell you all about that today. A fitting way to end WrestleMania season here. Andy, we were the weirdos that decided for some odd, strange reason that it was a great idea that we were not going to fly to Dallas. Now, number one, our hotel was near the other airport in Dallas that Southwest doesn't fly into. And I try my absolute hardest not to fly anything but Southwest. So that wasn't going to happen from that perspective. Second of all, who wants to rent a car or pay for Ubers the whole time that you're there? Third of all, daggum flying is expensive, especially going into Dallas WrestleMania weekend. Andy, we were the geniuses that decided to drive to Dallas 10 hours through the night on Thursday night, and we would be rip-raring and ready to go on Friday morning. The drive wasn't that bad, though, honestly, right?
No, the drive wasn't bad. We both kind of talked about it before, and while we were traveling to Dallas, that I prefer to drive through the night anyway than during the day because it's less traffic. The only thing you really have to worry about is construction, which we didn't run into. Kind of going to Dallas and coming back from Dallas, we didn't run into a whole lot of construction. And so that part wasn't bad. I mean, we kind of slept all day Thursday in preparation for the trip Thursday night. And I was fine. Yeah, I was fine throughout the night. Staying up all night wasn't that difficult. And then we got to our hotel room. They let us check in early, and then it got tough. It got really tough.
Well, listen, it was great because Jared and I had that luck when we were in Las Vegas that we got to check in our hotel as soon as we got there. That was great, man. Like, you and I had fully prepared that we were driving straight into Dallas and we were going straight to Axxess. Yeah. We were going to be there a little bit early, but we were going to drive straight to Axxess. We made great time. Like you said, didn't have any delays or anything. So we were going to be there super early. Thankfully, called the hotel, and the hotel was like, yeah, come on, we can get you in a room right now. Hallelujah. Praise Jesus. Because we also hadn't had a sizable, decent meal in 10 hours either. So we got to sit down to breakfast. That was good before we headed over to Axxess. But one of the things we talked a lot of, we just, BS back and forth a whole lot on the way there, what we thought was going to happen, talked some other things. But one of the great things that happened while we were on our way is we got to see the reveal of the WrestleMania set. Now we know that seems like it comes at different times every Mania weekend. We didn't even get one for 35, if I'm not mistaken, just because it was one large screen. But so what we're going to do right now, I promised you guys we're going to loop in some pictures and stuff on this recording. I'm going to attempt to share my screen and hopefully this works out. There it is. All right. So what we're seeing right here is this was what we saw in the reveal, man. So talk to me about, I know you and I talked about it, but give our listeners an education here. We're in the car. It's probably 1, 2 in the morning when this thing comes out, and you see the WrestleMania stage for your first WrestleMania for the first time. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, so I was just kind of scrolling through Twitter because we had been talking, like we had been looking since we left about anything about when the stage was going to be revealed and everything else. We knew Dude Perfect was going to be involved in it, so we didn't know if it was going to be through their channel or WWE's channel or both or whatever. And I think it was like 1:30 in the morning Central Time, something like that. And scrolled through, found the video. We both watched it. And we both had heard rumors, I guess is the right word, that it was going to be very similar to 35. It was just a big screen.
There was going to be a big screen element.
Yeah, a big screen element. So we were thinking, okay, this is just going to be 35. They're just going to have a massive screen, blah, 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 whatever. It is what it is. I was not expecting the stage that we got, and it looked amazing. I got goosebumps as soon as I saw it. Got very excited. I think that's when the trip really became real of like, we're heading to WrestleMania. Like we get to see this in 48 hours or so. And so that part was really, really cool to see that. I'm a big Dude Perfect fan as well. So seeing them like introduce it was really cool. And yeah, we freaked out as soon as we saw it. We tried to pause it to see where we were sitting to see if like we would have any trouble seeing everything. But you don't really know until you get there. But that was so cool to see that.
And we're going to show that video that Andy promised on the podcast a couple weeks ago. We're going to show our walk-in video here in just a few minutes. But before we get there, so that really got us. Honestly, man, like that 1:30 mark was about the point, I don't know about you, that I was starting to hit a wall driving. You said that we slept on Thursday. We did not nearly as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
So about 1:30 is when I started to hit the wall. But man, I think seeing this and getting that monster in my system, that's what helped me push through to the end to get us to Dallas and to ultimately get us to WrestleMania Axxess. Now, WrestleMania Superstore Axxess, we knew going in, I told you that it's unlike anything you've ever seen. It's not only is WrestleMania a wrestling fan stream, but Axxess is a wrestling fan stream. And you're seeing all kinds of pictures and stuff from that. But we knew we were going to get some wrestling figure reveals. I'm a huge figure collector. You're starting to dabble in it. We knew we were getting that. We had seen some of the merch that we were going to get. But Andy, talk about walking into Axxess for the first time. Like you had heard all these things that you were going to get, but again, just like WrestleMania, you had no idea until you actually walked in.
I walked in and I didn't know where to start. Like I walked in and
I think that's the first thing you said to me.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know where to start because like you had the figures on one side, you had the belts in the middle, you had the Undertaker display thing, which we'll talk about towards the back. You had memorabilia stuff. You had T-shirts upon T-shirts upon T-shirts on the other side. And I didn't really know where to start. Like I just kind of walked in, saw all the posters. I was like, this is the wrestling experience right here for every fan of coming here, getting to see this. They had the ring in the middle for where they did podcast stuff, like interview stuff throughout the week. And it was just awesome. Like it was like the second moment of like, this is really happening. Like we're really here. We're getting ready to go do this. I was extremely tired walking to the convention center because we
okay, yes, tell that story. This is just for Jared. Okay, Jared likes to give me crap for all the crap that I put him through going to WrestleManias. And I think Andy can attest, this is the one slip up moment that we had. And it wasn't really a slip up moment. It was just trying to find how to get in.
To be fair, they didn't have a lot of signs to tell you where to go.
None.
Because I was kind of expecting like a massive pop-up banner or something that said access entrance this way or whatever.
Yeah.
So we parked in like the middle of, because like we were going to Axxess that day, we were going to WrestleCon, then we were going to SmackDown later that night.
Sure. Yep.
And so we parked in the middle because like to the left was Axxess, to the right was was American Airlines Arena, right in the middle was WrestleCon. So we walked to Axxess, and it wasn't a terrible walk.
15 minutes.
15 minutes or so. It was like 60 degrees out. It was nice and cool, a lot of shade. And we get to the convention center.
Where we thought was the front.
And we're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of doors and stuff this way. There's like the WrestleMania banners hanging from the light poles and everything else. So we'll just walk around. Somehow we ended up at the loading docks because we could see the Make-A-Wish truck and we could see the WWE truck. And so we were like, oh, it's just got to be like right around this way, whatever. We literally walked the entire building around, and it's not a small building. We're right, like
it has an arena in it.
It has an arena in it. It has a theater in it as well. We were like nuzzled right up next to the interstate as we were walking by, which was a little dodgy at times. And then all of a sudden we just turned the corner and there's a door, and we were like, if we would have literally just turned right instead of gone straight, we would have been right there at it. So that was the first moment of like, this is not a great start to Axxess. This is gonna be a long day.
It wasn't too bad. Like, yeah, like you said, if we would have just turned right instead of going straight, down where the doors were, we would have been right there. Like this arena, this is where NXT TakeOver, the weekend of WrestleMania 32, that arena is where Axxess was. So like, it's not a small place. We had to go around the loading dock and then around the parking garage that's attached to it.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to. We parked there on Sunday, a lot easier. But we finally get into Axxess. We finally see all these things. I was incredibly excited to see all the wrestling figures, all the t-shirts, all the memorabilia. And Axxess was different this year. I know a lot of people were thinking that it was canceled. There was some rumors floating around that it was canceled, but it wasn't. It was just different.
Yeah.
They did not have as many meet and greets as normal. They did have some meet and greets, but it was filtered through a third party. And that was really the only thing that was missing. They had all of the different activities that you could do, but you did have to pay a little bit extra. However, I know a lot of people were complaining about that, but the Axxess ticket itself was a lot cheaper. So by the time that if you bought the Axxess ticket and then you paid on top to do, 1, 2, 3 things, whatever, boom, you had paid the regular price of the Axxess ticket to begin with. So it was just split up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody's complaining about how WWE was trying to make an extra buck or whatever. I don't really see it that way. But I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, you could go in and spend $10 and just look at things and not buy anything. Which,
absolutely.
If you had that willpower, then God bless your soul, because I was struggling. I was like, I walked out because like the first day we were there, we'll dive into a lot more, but when we checked out, I was like $75. Oh, I spent less than $100. I texted my wife then. She was like, you spent $75? And I was like, you spend like 180 every time you go to Vera Bradley. I don't want to hear it. This is a massive thing.
One of those activities that we got to experience, we got to take part in was, like Andy mentioned earlier, the Undertaker. I don't know if you call it walkthrough, tribute, whatever it was. I don't remember exactly.
I think they call it the Graveyard.
Okay, Graveyard. Cool.
Yeah.
So the Undertaker Graveyard, they've had this before. They have this at almost every WrestleMania, honestly, or some form of it. So what they have is they'll have some sort of, or at least the time that I was there, you walked in, the casket that housed Mark Henry, because it's a lot bigger than all the other ones, is sitting there. And I'll flash some pictures up here from the previous Graveyard experience. So you got Mark Henry's casket, and you had a couple of things on display, like an urn, and you had Taker's coat and hat from WrestleMania 33. Then you had the cross, and then you had a casket that you could actually get your picture taken in. So it was like casket was standing up, you took a picture in it, whatever. So that was cool. What we walked into was nothing like that. Like, it was this huge room set up, and it was this huge walkthrough. You walk in, there's this cool place where you can take a picture that had candles everywhere.
Yeah.
Then they had the funeral parlor set up that you actually saw, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Jake Roberts, all those guys be a part of. They had that set up. Then you walk around and they have every casket that the Undertaker has ever used on this humongous steel riser thing, and you could just see all of them.
Yeah.
You had the concrete crypt that Paul Bear got buried in. And as you're walking around, that's to your right. Well, to your left, they have all of the tombstones for all of the Undertaker's WrestleMania opponents, except for your boy CM Punk, which is funny.
Well, they actually, when you walked in, though, they had, so like the tombstones were kind of placed all throughout.
That's true. They were,
because you had, like, I think when you first walked in, one of the first ones you saw was, I think they had Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I think they had
Diesel.
They had a couple others, but in the middle, like this middle section was like 3 of Triple H. You had the 2 Shawns. You had Kane in this one as well. This was like the main. Batista, I think, was in this one, and Edge, I think, we're all in this one as well. So it was like that run of Taker that was like some of his best WrestleMania matches right there.
Right. And then in the middle of all that, they had the vehicle that, pretty sure, and we were trying to figure it out, I'm pretty sure it's the vehicle he came out on for WrestleMania 9. I think it was that one that they had in there. And then you kind of look over to your right, and they had the hearse. And I think the hearse is from SummerSlam 92. They had the hearse over there that you could get your picture taken with. They had a bunch of the Undertaker jackets and hats and stuff like that everywhere throughout the whole thing. Yep. Then you kind of got to the end, man, and you got to take your picture sitting in the Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness throne.
Yeah.
Like, I know that you were, knee-high to a grasshopper in the Attitude Era, but how cool was that photo op that you got to take your picture in that?
Oh, that was awesome. Like, that was, I knew that they were going to have, I knew they had something like that because I saw a picture earlier that Stephanie posted of her sitting in it.
Oh, cool.
And so I was like, but I didn't know if that was like an Axxess thing or if that was just her taking a picture with it or whatever.
Yeah.
But when we turned the corner and saw that, and they had it lit up, and like the whole area was smoky, and like it was just, that whole thing was really cool. I really had like chills going through the entire thing.
Yeah.
It was really cool. They also had the his wings from his entrance that one time that they were kind of suspended above. They had like urns everywhere as well. Yep. It was really cool getting to experience all of that. I'm not the biggest Taker historian because obviously I missed a lot of of his stuff.
Right.
But getting to walk through that was just an experience that I'll never forget. It was so cool seeing all that.
It definitely was. It was a highlight of the day for me, for sure, especially with what we were going to lead into that night. But during the day, like, I knew that, like, this is something we had to do, and I'm so glad that we did it.
Yeah.
And the walkthrough ended with the statue that they revealed the night before at Axxess. WWE has a lot of bronze statues for people like Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant. Well, now they have one of the Undertaker, much deserved, and that was at the end for you to take your picture with, which you're seeing on your screen there. So that was awesome. Very, very cool. So glad we were able to do that. We walked around some other places, and you saw some memorabilia. You saw the stuff from A&E's Most Wanted Treasure show. That was really cool to see, especially to see the Unabomb stuff that Kane wore as Unabomb, because I saw him wrestle as Unabomb. So, like, that was so cool for me. But getting to see all those things was very, very, very cool. Such a cool experience. And then, like you said, we spent some money, bought some t-shirts, that kind of thing. And then it was off to sit down again and grab a bite to eat because, we needed fuel to continue our 30-something hour day.
About 3 hours into Wrestle, like, as soon as, I was exhausted walking into WrestleCon because lack of sleep. We, like, walked 17 more miles than we were supposed to. we get in there, and like as soon as I walk in, it was like second wind. Here we go. We're like we're knocking stuff out. We're really moving. We went through like the memorabilia stuff. And like I was walking around with t-shirts and stuff, and all of a sudden I ran face first into the wall. I was like, oh my gosh, the rest of the day is going to drag. And so we like both were like, we need to go eat, sit for a minute, and then go to WrestleCon because otherwise it's going to be a long day.
which we did, and we got a third wind because we walked to WrestleCon, which again 15-minute walk, whatever.
Yeah,
we get there and we're standing in line because I knew that the line was going to be stupid to get into WrestleCon.
The session we went to was like the busiest session by far.
We quickly found that out that this was the number one session to go to. Yeah,
but it was the line started at like the front, and we were in the bar area, which I think was the best. I would rather be in the bar area than be at the front because what we saw was so freaking cool.
So standing in the bar area in line, I think what gave us our third rush of adrenaline or our third wind is we're standing there and all the wrestlers are just passing by us.
Yeah,
like it's nothing.
And like in the first 15 seconds, we're standing there and we both look over and there's just X-Pac at the bar. And we're like, oh, hey, look, there's X-Pac and there's Jerry the King Lawler and Kelly and Carlito and Chris Masters. And then Adam Cole and Britt Baker walk right by us. Matt Cardona walks right by us.
Jeff
it
Jarrett
was Jeff Jarrett, Demolition
Yep.
walked by us. It was really weird. Just kind of saying that, just like, oh, there's wrestler. Like, there's another wrestler. There's another. Like, it was really cool, though, at the same time.
Well, like one of the things that I was telling you is like, it just goes to show you that these wrestlers, like they are real people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have real lives, and wrestling fans are unlike any other celebrity fans, whereas we allow them to do that.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, yes. We respect them enough to let them just go on about their business.
Yeah. I mean, like, there was some people, like, when Adam Cole walked by, like, the whole crowd basically went Adam Cole, baby. But, like, nobody, like, flocked to him to stop him or anything. But, like, they just did chants as he walked by. There's a couple guys that stopped, some of the older guys, and they were not too thrilled about being stopped.
Right.
But, like, at the bar, nobody was messing with X-Pac. Nobody went and talked to him. He had just come off that Joey Janela spring break match night 1 against Joey Janela, which we watched on the way to Dallas.
Right.
Which I don't know how that man got up the next morning and looked fine because some of the stuff he did with a torn bicep, bicep is just ridiculous. But yeah, that part was really cool. Just getting to see wrestlers outside of their environment and just being normal people. Like, that was really cool to see that.
And we're going to start flashing some of these things up through here of all the guys that we met and some pictures that we took and stuff like that. So we go into WrestleCon, and it was kind of confusing to start with.
Yeah.
But we sort of figured out what we were doing. It was very much, Andy and I didn't see each other a lot during that because it was a very much divide and conquer type deal.
Yeah.
Adam Cole and Britt Baker's lines were extremely long.
Yeah.
Bray Wyatt's line got extremely long.
I got to Bray Wyatt at the perfect time, though.
You did. You definitely did.
Because that was like the first thing we both talked about. Like, okay, Chris was going to help me find Bray Wyatt's line, and then we're going to split off from there. And we could not find Bray Wyatt to save our life. They were like, he's in the gold room. And we walked in, and I think he had gone to lunch or something.
He was, yeah.
Because he was not there. So finally, I walk into the main room, and I was like, okay, the Adam Cole line's getting really long. I'm just going to jump in this line, knock this out really quick. And it was like 2 hours later, I went back to Bray Wyatt, and there was like 2 people in line. I was like, shot in line real quick because he was he was in the pro op photo. So I got in line really quickly for him.
Yep.
And it worked out pretty well.
It did. It definitely did. But the thing about Adam Cole and Britt Baker is you couldn't be in one line for both of them. Like, you had to have one line for Adam and one line for Britt. So that's what made it rough for us.
Yeah.
And then I may be a jerk for doing this, but I did it, and I'm not afraid to say it, and you did it too. And it's because we were told to do it.
Right.
So Johnny Gargano's line starts getting extremely long. Like, insane, wrapping around half of the room.
Like an hour later, when we walked back by, they had only moved like maybe a foot.
It was insane.
It was crazy.
And that also goes to show you that Johnny Gargano was spending time with each person.
Yes, he was.
Like he was really being personable with people, which I loved.
Yep.
And
Adam Cole was the same way.
Yep. He definitely was, for sure. So after we both met Adam Cole and Johnny and Britt Baker, both of them super, super nice. It was great. It was absolutely an incredible experience. I walked over to Johnny Gargano while you were still in line, I think, for Jungle Boy.
Or Britt, either one. Yeah.
One of the two. Yeah. So, which you got a video recorded for your wife from Jungle Boy, which is awesome. We're playing that now. So once that happened, you were in line there. I went over to Johnny, and we had been told by the guy that we pre-ordered the tickets for Johnny, that pre-ordering helps your spot in line. Just come up, tell the guy who's at the table that you pre-ordered, and they'll get you right on through. So that ridiculously long line, I moseyed my way through, went up to the guy, and I said, "Hey, I pre-ordered. I was told to come straight to you when I got here." And he's like, "Oh yeah, cool. What's your name?" And he turned a page, and there was my name on a piece of paper. And he said, "Yep, absolutely. You're next." And I was like, "Oh, baby." So I didn't have to fight the line.
Yeah.
And then after that happened, I texted you and I said, "You have to do this.
Yeah.
This is the way to do it. I'm already done." But dude, Johnny Gargano, oh my god,
so nice. He was so nice. I got to talk to him for just a few minutes of just telling him, like, literally your match with Adam Cole kind of changed my perspective on wrestling. Like your trilogy of matches with him really changed a lot of how I view wrestling, and not like in a bad way. Like it was probably some of my favorite matches of all time. It's just your match with Adam Cole. I kind of told Adam Cole the same thing as well. Like your matches were just crazy good. And he just like sit down and talked like a few minutes with like about some stuff. He also like, I think some kid, it was either in front of you or when we walked by or something, asked him about like he's an aspiring wrestler and like any advice, and he like picked his brain for 10 minutes of like talking back and forth about what it takes to be not just a pro wrestler but to be a successful pro wrestler. It was really cool to see that.
It was very cool for Johnny to spend that time with those people, and they were so appreciative. Both he and Adam Cole, I got them to sign my NXT TakeOver New Orleans poster that they were both on. They were both very appreciative of that. They both immediately were impressed with the poster. They were like, "Oh, this is one of the originals. This is so cool." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. I bought it at the event." "Oh, you were at the event. That's awesome." Adam was like, "Oh, this is the night that I pulled double duty. Where do you want me to sign?" I'm like, "Okay." So it was really, really cool to get to interact with him. It was very awesome. We got them, of course. I went over. I couldn't not go say hi to my boys, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. Got them to sign back here, which you can't really see behind me, but the boxes of their Super 7 figures. Got to chat with them. It was very, very, very cool. They're always so gracious to major marks, as they call us fans. So they're always so gracious to us. Very, very cool to get to meet them. And then since Kevin Nash wasn't there and since Jeff Jarrett wasn't there, I decided to go over and meet Christian. Was kind of on the fence about that, but I'm glad I did it. It was very, very cool. It was a really nice guy. You could tell that you and I mentioned it earlier. Like he seemed to be upset throughout the day or something. We saw him a couple of times, and I don't know if he was aggravated or something else outside was going on or what, but he couldn't have been nicer to me.
Yeah. He looked like, and he may just have like that look when he's just calm or chilling or whatever. Right. But he looked like something was bothering him or whatever. But because when I was so he was at the same table as Jungle Boy was. And so when I was in line for Jungle Boy, there was a lot of people going up to see him, and he would talk to them for like 5-10 minutes as well. He was another one that was like, he didn't rush people away from his table. And that's kind of like, I guess Bray was the only one, but that's not because Bray was that way. It's because there were so many people in line to see Bray. You had to keep that line moving. Otherwise it was going to take way too long. But everyone else like was not rushing you away from their table. Like they were talking and shooting the breeze, and they were talking to you about matches or like when I talked to Killer Cross, I told him like, I have been a fan of yours since before NXT. Like I loved your work in AAA and all this other stuff. And he like just sat and talked to me for 5 minutes about outside of NXT stuff, and like he thanked me for being a fan and told me to keep watching, and he's going to do some special stuff. Like things like that was really cool to show that they're not just there to get a paycheck, but they're like, they love what they do and they love the people that love what they do. And it's really cool to see that.
And it didn't matter. It's very cool that you mentioned that, because it didn't matter how many people were there.
Yeah.
They spent time with everybody.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that this was the busiest session of WrestleCon yet, or of the whole weekend. They still spent time with everybody.
And I think part of it is because it wasn't necessarily cheap to meet them. Because you had to pay your ticket to get into WrestleCon, and then to meet each individual person, it costs a little extra. Yep. And so I think it was, they understood that we were paying our hard-earned money to see them and to spend some time with them, to get them to sign stuff. Yep. So they weren't like rushing you away, because I think some of the people that were working with WrestleCon, that were taking the money and stuff, were trying to keep the line moving. And I saw a couple guys like, no, like, just, they can wait. Like, they paid their money, they're gonna wait too. We're talking. And like, that was really cool to see that.
And the wrestlers making them wait, like, they knew they were going to give them the same amount of time too. Yeah. Like, they're going to get their time. Yeah. Let's not rush anybody, So that was very, very cool. And then I met Kevin Sullivan for Jared. I got to tell him the story about Jared being vacationing in his condo for a couple of summers. Kevin signed a picture for him, so he was very, very gracious. He couldn't have been happier to see that. I could tell that he was his health was declining, but he was very appreciative. That was very cool. And then by that time, you were over in Bray Wyatt's line, just waiting on Bray. I went over and joined you because I was done at that point. A couple of people I mentioned, Kevin Nash and Jeff Jarrett, weren't there that I wanted to see. Tom Hannafin was not there. So after all that, like, I'm done at that point. So I came over to join you, snuck a picture of Ric Flair because he was in there as well. And it's so funny because you guys are looking at this picture right now of Flair. He was looking right at me when I took the picture. Yeah. I don't know how it happened, but he's looking right at me when I took the picture. So it was great.
That whole room was crazy because like we were in line for Bray, but we also, like, Flair was in there, Kurt Angle was in there, Mark Henry, John Morrison, Big Show. Road Dogg and
Billy Gunn.
Billy Gunn and his boys were there. Which Road Dogg and Billy Gunn are loud people. So very, like, what you saw on TV was not them amplified by 10. It's literally just them. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows are the same way. Like, you could hear them above everyone else. And they made standing in line for Bray worth it because they were funny. Like, they were absolutely hilarious just to listen. I think at one point Road Dogg was trying to sell a jar of Billy Gunn's fart for like $10 and was just walking around with a jar, making people like just looking at it. It was amazing. I got a snack from Kurt Angle. He was throwing out snacks at one point.
Okay,
which was really cool. So like, there was just it was really cool to see them out of their element and see them as just regular people. It was really awesome to see that.
And then Bray Wyatt finally showed up, and everybody was happy, and everybody got their time with Bray Wyatt. Yep. Tell us about that for you.
So there are some people that have this stigma about them that they're one way. And I think it's part of the care. Like, I think with Mark Calloway as Undertaker, I think you would think he's like a cold person that you can't really talk to, or he's not going to talk to you a lot or whatever. That could not be less true of Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was super personable. He was very nice to everyone he talked to. There was a kid in front of me that had the Fiend belt. He talked to him for a couple of minutes, just kind of talking to him. I kind of offended him a little bit. I don't know if offend is the right word.
No, you did.
But I think he had been. I think a lot of people had said the same thing to him. Because he signed. I had this elite Bray Wyatt Firefly Funhouse action figure that he signed, and I just told him, I was like, man, I thank you so much for what you've done, and I appreciate what you've done. He's like, why is everyone talking about me like I'm dead? I was like, I'm just thank you for what you've done. And then I was like, I can't wait to see what you do in the future, because like, if you do movies, I'm probably going to be in the front row to watch them, because I think you could kill it at horror movies and things like that. So like, seeing him was really cool outside of the Bray Wyatt Fiend character. And it's just, he's one of the guys that, while wrestling wasn't great during the last couple of years, while it wasn't perfect, all the stuff he did, he put his heart into, and I really appreciate that. And he didn't always get the credit that he deserved. So that was really cool getting to see that. And to see how many people appreciated that standing in that line was really awesome as well.
Yep, it was very, very, very cool. So it was cool for that. Yeah, I got a kick out of him saying, people talk about me like I'm dead. I'm not dead.
Well, you haven't been anywhere in like a year.
Exactly. Like this is only his second or third appearance since he was released, So
and he obviously he was teasing the mess out of being Seth's opponent to the point where I was like, man, this could happen. Like this, like it could. And if it was the Fiend, I would freak out for it. Like I was on board for it at that point.
But we would soon find out that it was not, and we'll get to that in a minute. But we finished up WrestleCon. We went and sat in the car for about 2 hours. Thought we were going to take a nap. I was too jazzed. I couldn't take a nap.
Yeah, I was too tired. I couldn't take a nap.
Right. So then we made the walk to American Airlines Center and went to SmackDown. And we were saying this, man, like Bridgestone Arena is very, very cool. Yeah. But American Airlines Center is one of the nicest arenas I've ever been in. Oh my gosh.
I've never seen an arena that's not a football arena have 4 layers.
That was insane.
And like we were when we bought our tickets for SmackDown, because obviously we talked about it before, it was definitely like a last minute the week before decision. So we were like, they're probably going to prices are probably going to be high to sit anywhere low. Let's just get in the building somewhere. So we set like section 325, I believe it was 305, something like that. But we made sure we were like row B, so we were second from the top. And we walked in, and I was like, these are actually not bad seats, at all. Like we can see everything just fine. There was a lot of people. It was for a SmackDown. I think it was more for the Hall of Fame, but for a SmackDown, it was a packed crowd, and it was a hot crowd. It was. Like the crowd was. I told you because we were talking about before of like we were both afraid that we were going to fall asleep during SmackDown.
Yep.
And then like SmackDown started and the crowd was hot, and I was like, I'm jazzed again. Like this, I'm ready to roll. The crowd's getting me into this. It was really fun. SmackDown was not great. It was not that good of a show. It had its moments. The triple threat match, seeing that in live was really cool. Like that was a really good match. Seeing Ricochet hit the 630 into the recoil as well was awesome to see that. But yeah, it was better than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't a good show, but it was better than what I thought it was going to be. And then what we actually ended up getting at the end was icing on the cake. Absolutely amazing.
It wasn't just icing on the cake because, ladies and gentlemen, I will go on record right now and I will tell you, I've never been to a Hall of Fame. I don't ever plan on going to another Hall of Fame unless my mind really gets changed and this person that is getting inducted when I'm at WrestleMania again just really makes me want to go.
Right.
But I would do the whole 32 hours all over again, the 10-hour drives, the long day to get what we got at the end of the Hall of Fame. Sure, the Shad Gaspar thing was emotional. That was great.
Yep.
Vader was very cool. Yep. The Steiner brothers, very cool. Queen Sharmell, was fine.
She was better than I was. She was better than I was anticipating, and the crowd actually was pretty hot for her. Like they were giving her due. So that made it, because we both got up and we're like, let's go to the bathroom, let's get a drink or whatever.
Yep.
And we got done, and they were still doing the video package, and I was like, well, dadgummit, let's just go listen to her. And I was like, that's not bad. Like it wasn't bad. Do a bad job.
It wasn't bad, but everybody was there.
Oh yeah,
for the dead man, for the Undertaker. Vince comes out, very, very cool to hear Vince give his speech about the Undertaker.
Yeah.
And then, man, the Undertaker comes out and 7 minutes of cheering and screaming and yelling and thank you takers and all of this other stuff. 7 minutes before that man was able to talk. I was so glad I was in the crowd for that.
Yeah, it was worth every penny. That was worth the admission into the building.
Yep.
And worth the 32 hours we were up straight, because it was probably the greatest Hall of Fame induction of all time, which is weird to kind of put it that way.
Yep.
It was the greatest TED Talk I've ever heard in my life.
Yes.
From the Undertaker. The dude could be a motivational speaker very easily. He deserved to have those 7 minutes of people just cheering for him.
Yes, he did.
Because I know there were times, and we saw it during like the Shad Gaspar thing and some other things, where the fans are trying to make it about them.
Yep.
But during the Taker, induction, it was all about the Undertaker.
Yes, it was.
I mean, it was all about the Undertaker. I think once the crowd saw that we had gotten to him and he started to get emotional, we were like, "Oh, let's ramp it up. Let's make this man, not in a bad way, but like let's make this man cry. Like let's make this man,
because we've never seen that before.
No, and let's show him how much like he means to us. Like my first memory of watching wrestling on TV was the Undertaker's entrance. The Undertaker. I know I talk about Punk like getting me into wrestling and the Shield keeping me around and Bray Wyatt. If it wasn't for the Undertaker's entrance, I probably would have turned the channel.
Right.
But seeing the Undertaker's entrance is what got me hooked into wrestling. And so that was getting to see that live, getting to see Mark Calloway instead of the Undertaker was amazing.
Yep.
And yeah, the 7 minutes, somebody said on Twitter, I don't remember who it was, but I saw it and I told you about it. This is the reverse of the Raw after Mania, WrestleMania 33. When Roman was in the ring and he was getting 7 minutes of booze. This is the complete opposite of that. So it was absolutely worth it being in the building. Thank you, Deadman, honestly, for your work, what you've done. You weren't always a good guy, but you were always a guy that we could rely on. And so that really, really means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to you, Chris. And to any wrestling fan, I know it means a lot to them as well.
I can't imagine. I would have been so mad at myself had I not been in the building for that. I would have been so mad. I'm so glad I was there.
See,
solidified the Undertaker as one of my favorites of all time.
I was the same way because at first, sitting through SmackDown, full disclosure, sitting through SmackDown, the guy in front of us had Ring of Honor Supercard on his phone. So, like, we missed most of SmackDown because we both were, like, peering our heads around. And it was the Briscoes and FTR, and I was like, man, we should be there. We should not be here. Taker's not going to be worth it, all this. And then the 7 minutes, I was like, never mind. This is worth it. This is great. This is worth more than missing the Ring of Honor Supercard. So that was really cool seeing that.
It was very, very cool. And then him saying never say never at the end.
Oh, my gosh.
He had us hook, line, and sinker. He put the hat and the coat on, and it was great.
I thought he was just going back in the gimmick, just walking away one last time. But when the music stopped, and then he said in not Mark Calloway's voice, but in Undertaker's voice, never say never. I literally got chills, and the place erupted. Like the place went crazy.
It was great. So then we finally got to get in the car, finally got to leave, finally got to go to the hotel room and get some sleep. We got up the next morning. We did a live show with Tom Bryce from Sportswire Radio, which will be available on our feed shortly. So you'll be able to check that out. That was a lot of fun. Just talking WrestleMania, talking a little Final Four because this was before that happened. We talked a lot of things with Tom, so that was a blast. Got us some Whataburger, which was incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
And then, man, we headed over to AT&T Stadium. Seeing that thing for the first time, the thing is just massive. Like, holy cow. What in the world?
I've been by, I've been able to see it from the interstate passing by because I was in Fort Worth one time and I was like, oh yeah, like that's, it's whatever. When you're there in front of it, like right up next to it, the thing is huge. Like it is, I couldn't imagine playing football there in front of that many people almost every Sunday. Like it's ridiculous how massive that thing is.
It's insane. It's so ridiculous.
Thank goodness we didn't have to walk around that thing.
Right.
To get in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure. So it's right next door to the Texas Rangers ballpark.
Yep.
Which was very
where the Texas Longhorns play baseball because they apparently were playing Oklahoma this weekend. So like, parking lots were packed trying to get in.
It was crazy. So we walk up and we stand outside of AT&T Stadium for a while waiting to get in line. And we got in and we're showing the video right now. We walked downstairs. We got to walk into the stadium and see everything for the first time. And it was just insane, man. This was the moment that Jared and I built up for you. Like this, if there's one moment that you'll remember from the whole weekend, it'll be the first time you see WrestleMania. You walk into the stadium for the first time. Because not only is this your first WrestleMania, this is your first stadium wrestling show of any kind.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the floor. Let's talk about that.
So I don't know. I think part of me was like, because I knew where we were sitting. Part of me was like, it's not going to be that big of a deal because I can't see the whole thing. You know what I mean? Because like we were at the side, so I was only going to be able to see like half the stage, half the ramp, the ring, whatever. So like I was trying to downplay it because I was like, I don't want to disappoint myself walking and be like,
Right.
oh, that's
Right.
it. Oh my gosh! As soon as I walked in, it was just I got chills, and I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't want to go find my seat. I just wanted to walk around and just look at it and just like
Yep.
continue to look at it. It was absolutely amazing. I could tell right away, especially I've gotten used to when we sit on sides like that. I try to find all the pyro points as fast as I can because I know as soon as those things go off, at least I know where they're at.
Right.
Because the first ever wrestling show I went to, I did not know that they did pyro inside that much, and I did not know how. I knew they did pyro, but I didn't know how loud it was.
Right.
And especially the Dudley Boys were there.
And, oh man!
You know how they have that random pyro out of nowhere? I could have swore the place was getting shot up as soon as I heard that. So like that experience scarred me for life when it comes to pyro indoors. So I was trying to find all the points, and oh man, we sat there for like 2.5 hours before it even started, and I could have sat there for 4 more hours and been fine. Like it was absolutely amazing to sit there and just look at the stage. And I don't want to say we got spoiled, but we could see on our side that's where they parked all the cars for the entrances and stuff. So like we were speculating like, oh, who's like is that going to be Bianca's car? Is that going to be Pat McAfee's car? Like we were kind of going back and forth on what was going to be what. It was so cool though. It was absolutely amazing. Getting to experience that was just that's one of the moments that I'm going to remember the most. Like that's like top 5 moments of WrestleMania itself that I'll remember the most. I think the Big Shock return will probably be number 1, and then weird enough, Pat McAfee I think will be number 2 because that dude was just the crowd was so hot for that. But this one is definitely like top 5 of what I'm going to remember.
Oh, absolutely. So we've got all of these awesome videos and stuff that we're playing through right now from both nights of WrestleMania. But I want to take a moment in particular to point out the surprise of the night. Now, again, full disclosure, Andy gets a little excited in this video, but that's the point of the video.
Yeah.
That's the point of us seeing, because you were not alone. There were 77,000 other people that had this exact same reaction. So we're going to take a second, and we're going to watch this Cody Rhodes video, and then we'll come back. All right. Wow. What an experience. If you're just now joining us, welcome to the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast. This is a show that's for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. And joining me is my partner in crime, Mr. Andy York, the Young Buck. Andy, we have just seen the Cody Rhodes video. And I know that I know you were going a little crazy. That's okay. That's the point.
Yeah.
We got to see that live. We were there.
So I didn't know whether to scream, sing the music, or just stand there and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It was we kind of both knew that it was more than likely going to be Cody, with a chance of the Undertaker possibly being that spot.
Yep.
But since they hadn't done the Hall of Fame at that point, I was like, okay, it's probably not going to be the Undertaker.
Right.
Like, it's more than likely not going to be the Undertaker. So then I was like, maybe it's The Fiend, maybe it's Bron Breakker showing up, maybe it's Vince McMahon, which I would not have necessarily been against because I think that would have been fun.
Right.
But man, when the pyro went off in the turnbuckle and the pyro shot up the ramp and then the lights went out, and then you hear wrestling has more than one royal family, as soon as I heard that over the intercom, I lost it. Like, at one point, I think you can see in the video, at one point, like, the camera shakes a little bit. That's not because I'm switching hands. That's because I lose my balance because I blacked out for a second. Of just, like, pure excitement and, like, adrenaline in my soul. Thank you, Cody Rhodes. And at that, like, it was just so awesome getting to see that, and then seeing him come up from the floor, hearing the crowd just freak out over it. It was the like, when you think of WrestleMania, you think of moments like this. You think of, like, the Hardy Boys returning at WrestleMania 33, or you think about, WrestleMania 25 with Shawn and the Undertaker, and just the crowd's energy and things like that. This was one of those moments, and honestly, like, I think we had more than one of those moments at this year's WrestleMania.
We did.
And it was amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, Stone Cold coming out, the pop for that was loud. And the second night, it was even louder because we talked about it. The unexpected glass shatter is the best sound in wrestling. But I'm going to throw, like, I think this is right up there with it. The pop that this man got, the noise that it was absolutely amazing just to hear that and be a part of that.
And then we got a great match on top of it.
Oh, my gosh.
It wasn't just the moment and Cody comes out and squashes Rollins. Like, we got a good 20, 25-minute match out of it. And it was great. It was match of the weekend for sure. But then, like you said, we move on through the night. Becky Bianca was incredible. So good. And then Ronda Charlotte was what it was. That's fine. Then we get the KO show with Austin and Kevin Owens. Austin coming out for the first time. Absolutely just incredible moment. They banter back and forth, and then they go for a good 15 minutes wrestling around the arena. And you're seeing pictures and videos. They come up the ramp, and they're right near us, and suplexes and four-wheelers and everything you would expect. And beer. Everything you would expect from Stone Cold Steve Austin, but a stunner, 1, 2, 3, gets it done. Austin gives him another stunner at the end. He stuns Byron at the end.
I got the big pop from me.
That was great. It was so, and Corey Graves. Corey Graves got excited for that. So Austin celebrating at the end. What an incredible atmosphere it was. And he rode the four-wheeler around a couple more times. Stood up on the four-wheeler right on our side. So that was really cool. So just that experience alone was there are so many moments at this WrestleMania that was worth the price of admission. You got Cody and you got Austin and just all of these things that you could have singled out and said that was worth it. That made it worth it. We've said that over and over. Meeting Johnny Gargano or Adam Cole or Bray Wyatt or whatever, that was worth it. 32 hours awake straight just to see the Undertaker's speech, that was worth it. I mean, just all of these things, man. You were so spoiled for your first WrestleMania. I swear.
I was, and I know I am, and that's part of the reason why I'm scared to go back to another WrestleMania.
Right.
But part of me is like, you got to go. Like,
you did.
Even the down moments are fun. Like, I know you didn't enjoy it, but Logan Paul really shocked me of like how good he was. And like Charlotte and Ronda, it wasn't great, but it was still good. Like, there wasn't a bad match. There wasn't a bad moment. And even the bad moment of night 2 was so funny that it was absolutely entertaining and absolutely worth it. That you can't really replace it or move on from it. It was just absolutely. I know I'm spoiled for it, and I love every second of being spoiled for it.
And everything that we just sit here and talked about, that was just night 1. Like the consensus was, how in the world are they going to duplicate this? Well, before that they duplicated that, we went to Axxess again. Because we had tickets to go to a Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch panel, which was quite interesting. It was fan questions. It was a lot of fun. Becky came out and took a Raw Women's Championship from a fan and paraded around with it. That was really fun. But it was cool to get an insight on Seth and Becky, and not really to see a different side of them, but kind of, because they were still both kind of in character.
It depends on the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was that to me. That was really cool because, like, I know Becky coming out and she basically cut a promo in the first 5 minutes, and I loved it. Like, I love a Becky promo. That was funny. Seeing Seth's reaction to her was great, but then there was questions of like, how do you maintain a diet, or how do you do this, that, or the other? And they were like actually legitimately answering questions. And then like a couple other questions about Bianca, whatever. Becky would get back into character. A lot of Cody questions that Seth would get back into character. But the thing that really stuck out to me is like, I think we're really I think we're going to see a turn for both of them back towards being baby faces, because they both said they miss the reaction of the crowd getting cheered and things like that. So I think that to me was really, really telling. It wasn't what we thought it was going to be, because we thought it was just going to be them kind of telling stories or whatever, but it was still worth it. It was really cool to see that.
It definitely was. And I've got to meet Seth before, and he couldn't have been nicer. It was early in the morning, but he couldn't have been nicer to me. And the interactions that I've heard from Jared meeting Becky Lynch, she couldn't have been nicer as well. So you could see some of that coming through, like you said, but they also still played in character a little bit. So that was nice. And then we snuck out because I got the opportunity to go meet Shawn Michaels again. This belt up here, I'm going to try to grab it real quick without knocking anybody over. I don't know if y'all can see this with my light there, but there it is. It is now signed by the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Andy, is one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life. Getting to see Shawn Michaels, getting him to sign my belt.
Yeah.
Like, when else would I have gotten that chance?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Shawn's not going to do a WrestleCon anytime soon.
No.
So getting to do that, I'm so glad that I did it. And then we went back to AT&T Stadium for night number 2. And we're showing you all the things from night number 2, the cool entrance with Sasha Banks and Naomi. That was really cool. And then, of course, you have the Sami Zayn Johnny Knoxville match, which was so much fun.
So fun.
That seemed to be the theme of night number 2. Is like, it was more fun. Night number 1 was like absolutely incredible as far as match quality goes. Night number 2 was more fun because you had that, and then you had the McAfee stuff with Vince and Stone Cold coming back out like you mentioned earlier. And man, I don't want to say that they topped night number 1 because I don't think they did, but they gave us a great follow-up.
They did. It was. I think I enjoy night number 1 still more than I do night number 2. Not saying I didn't enjoy night number 2. I think you're absolutely right. Night number 2 nailed the fun aspect of everything. Because you start off with like a hot triple threat tag team match that was amazing. Bobby Lashley and Omos was what it was, and the pop that he got when he suplexed him was pretty massive. And then Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn. I think Sami Zayn, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Sami Zayn, day of recording, I think yesterday, tweeted out that that's his favorite match he's ever done, was with Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania.
Really?
He said it was the most fun he's ever had. He's so proud of what they've done. And you could tell. Like, I think you could tell Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville both had fun with this.
Yep.
Hogan and Andre need to move out of the way. We have the best slam of WrestleMania of all time with Wee Man Slam and Sami Zayn.
So good.
Wee Man got a massive pop. Massive pop when he showed up. That was fun. Pat McAfee is so over with the fans that it's ridiculous. I know his song helped, but even after the song quit, people were still chanting for McAfee and things. And we didn't even talk about Edge and AJ. Like, seeing Edge's entrance was amazing.
Yes.
That was so cool seeing that live. The match itself, I've gone back and watched it, and it's not bad. Like, it's really good for a technical. It's not a spot fest. It's not I don't think it's as good as Seth and Cody was, but it was still probably the third best match of the weekend, maybe the second best. I think between it and Becky and Bianca is really like neck and neck with each other. It's so good.
Yep.
And so that was like really cool getting to see that. And then the main event, it is what it was, but it was still fun. The pop that Roman got when he won, the ooh-ah, when he yelled the ooh-ah, the crowd went nuts. And I think why I enjoyed the main event better, I didn't enjoy watching it, going back and watching it, but being there in person, seeing the kid in front of me lose it for Roman winning made it worth it for me, because it's like, this is the next generation of wrestling fan right here, and this is a moment he will never forget. So that was really cool seeing that.
People booed Roman for the sake of booing Roman because he's the bad guy.
Right.
But the pop that he got when he won, undeniable that 78,000 people were excited that he won.
Absolutely.
I think whoever won was going to get a big pop.
Yeah.
But with Roman winning, I thought it was great, man.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Overall, man, and then after Sunday night is over with, we do our live show and we got a little bit of sleep. Got in the car and we drove 10 hours home and
stopped at a Buc-ee's.
Stopped at a Buc-ee's for the first time. That
was like a highlight of the trip.
Place is insane. Oh my gosh. If you've never been to a Buc-ee's, you need to go.
Yeah.
My goodness. But man, all in all, that puts a bow on WrestleMania weekend. That's what we did. Did we leave anything out that we may have forgotten?
Not that I can think of. I think we really covered everything. We did have the Smackadillas or whatever after night one. They were really good.
So good.
They were really good.
I'm telling you, when companies like do stuff like this, like promo stuff or whatever, going along with their show, or companies say, "Oh, try our food," when they're not a food company. It's kind of crappy. But man, those Smackadillas. They were really good.
I tried to order another one Sunday night, and I think they were so busy that it was taking too long. And I was like, we got to go live. So I just canceled the order, eat some peanuts or whatever, and it was fine. But night one, it was a good after Mania snack.
It was very good. It was very good. And the trip to and from Mania was super easy. Parking was super easy.
Yeah.
Like, I do not regret driving, not one single bit. Like the 10 hours in the car was a little bit difficult, but I don't regret driving one single bit, man. It was great.
I think the trip back to Nashville was harder than the trip to Dallas.
Yes.
Because we were tired, but we were like physically and emotionally tired. Like, we talked a lot on the way there. We didn't talk a whole lot on the way back because we were both just so tired and zoned out and trying to focus and all this other stuff. But yeah, driving was worth it. Absolutely worth it. There's nothing worse than trying to get an Uber or rent a car and trying to drive it. It was worth every second of it. And I'm looking forward to doing it again.
I'm looking forward to it as well. We will be doing it again at some point. Maybe not LA, but we will be doing it again. Don't worry about that. All right, man. Final thoughts. Your first WrestleMania, my first 2-night WrestleMania experience was very, very cool. I was very drained going into night number 2, but once everything started, especially, we didn't even talk about it, especially Triple H starting the night off. Oh my gosh. Like, you talk about a way to wake me up and get me going. Like, oh man, like that was it. But my first 2-night WrestleMania, your first WrestleMania period, like, give me some closing thoughts on this as we wrap up Mania season.
Yeah, it's a personal top 5 Mania of all time for me. I think it's a top 10 Mania of all time, but personally, it's a top 5 Mania of all time. Being there in person, I don't think I could have picked, unless I went to like WrestleMania 30. I don't think I could have picked a better Mania to go to. Yep. It was just fun. Like, the whole experience was fun, and it was awesome just being there with other wrestling fans and just getting to spend that time. Some of them were drunk and annoying, but like some of the ones that were immediately around us were fun and like interactive. And after the Roman match, after the Cody match, we were all high five. It was like being at a Cowboys game or whatever.
Right.
It was so fun. So if you haven't gone to WrestleMania and you get the opportunity to, go to WrestleMania, because it's such a once in a lifetime thing that it's so enjoyable. Like, Katie's already started talking to me about, okay, when are you going to take me to Mania? I was like, I will take you. If you want to go to LA, let's go to LA. Like, we will make this happen. So I think she'll get the bug when we go to SummerSlam and see the grandeur that is SummerSlam, and I'll be like, it's 10 times more at Mania. So I think we're golden there. But it was worth it, and I'm so glad I went. I'm so glad you talked me into going, and I can't wait to do it again.
Let me just tell you, this being my 3rd WrestleMania, it gets better every time. Like, for different reasons. You know, there are
Yep.
a lot of moments that connect way more when you're in the building versus when you're watching at home. And there are a lot more moments vice versa, you know, that connect more at home than in the building, you know. But all in all, like WrestleMania, I've said this many, many times. I'll continue to say it again. Each WrestleMania is different and great for different reasons on each one of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, kudos to WWE on delivering again. It didn't look like 35 or 34 or 37 or 30 or, you know, 13, but every WrestleMania is different. And for this WrestleMania, it was perfect the way that it was.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. That's going to wrap up WrestleMania season. It has been a lot of fun cranking out a whole lot of content for you. We hope that you are hanging in there with us and that you appreciate it very much. Wherever you're listening to us or watching us, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you support not only us, but our great partners. I know they would appreciate it. Follow us at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Andy is at Andy_PBWP. I am at Chris Belcher 24. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on this edition of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you guys down the road.